Greetings and welcome to this information session delivered by the Indigenous Justice Program for the call for proposals on systemic change informed by Gladue Principles to address Indigenous overrepresentation in the criminal justice system. We are very excited to be running this call for proposals under our program and hope you find this information session helpful. We will start by showing you how to navigate to the landing page for this call on the Justice Canada website. I encourage everyone to read the information online carefully before starting your application form. We have tried to be really clear on what we are looking for, so I am not going to review every single detail today, but rather spend time focusing on elements that we think could benefit most from a bit more explanation. This call is related to funding announced in the fall economic statement for the implementation of Gladue Principles into the mainstream justice system. In particular, this call for proposals is for $10 million over 4 fiscal years to support education and systemic change projects informed by Gladue Principles. On this landing page, we have included information about Gladue Principles and how to apply them in the context of developing your funding proposals. Many of you may already be familiar with Gladue Principles and the 1999 Supreme Court of Canada decision in the case of R versus Gladue that they came from. If you are not, there is a lot of publicly available information out there if you want to learn more. For the purpose of this call, we're asking you to think of Gladue Principles in a broad sense and to draw from them in designing and developing your projects. In this limited context, we are outlining key elements to consider, but please note this is not a legal or technical definition of Gladue Principles. It is important to note that this funding opportunity is separate from funding for Gladue reports, which are not eligible under this particular call for proposals. There are 2 separate themes under this call. You will see when we go over the 2 themes for the call for proposals that there are strong links between the Gladue Principles and the mandatory criteria, proposed activities, and expected results outlined in the themes. Therefore, if you align your project proposal with the theme description, you should not have anything to worry about. Now we will move on to the 2 themes. You can submit 1 proposal under each theme if you wish, but only 1 proposal per theme. Both themes are for targeted projects, meaning there is a specific focus and mandatory activities for the projects. I will provide details for both themes first, followed by some information about filling in your application forms. Each theme has their own application form with different questions, so please make sure you use the correct form. We will review theme 1 first. This theme is focused on training and education for justice professionals, such as police, lawyers, Crown, and judges. Your project could focus on training for several groups of professionals or focus on only one group. The choice is up to you. The training and education activities should provide information on the historical and systemic causes of Indigenous overrepresentation, as well as information on solutions that justice professionals can apply in their work and decision-making. In particular, the use of community-based options, such as Indigenous-led justice programs. you will see it is clear who is eligible to apply for this theme. In particular, we are really hoping to see partnerships between professional associations, academic institutions, and Indigenous groups in developing and delivering the projects. For non-Indigenous applicants, we will require signed partnership letters with Indigenous partners prior to approving projects. These can be submitted after the proposal deadline, but we ask that you send them as soon as possible. For this theme, we are only accepting national, provincial, and territorial level projects. We have limited funds and are looking to reach as many criminal justice professionals as possible in each project. We will also consider proposals that cover a large region, but you will need to describe the reach and provide a rationale as to why you are limiting your project to a specific region. Community level projects are not eligible under Theme 1. If you have already developed training or educational material that you feel meets the criteria outlined in the theme description, you can apply for funding to deliver and/or disseminate it. In this case, we would like you to include background information in your proposal about these previously developed training or materials. In particular, what is included in them and how were they developed? Your project must contribute to the planned outcomes outlined in the theme. Before projects end, we expect criminal justice professionals to have increased their understanding of the systemic causes of Indigenous overrepresentation and Indigenous-led community-based options. In the medium term, likely after your project has ended, we expect those professionals to adapt their approaches to better respond to the needs of Indigenous people, including, for example, by working more closely with Indigenous-led community programs and services. In the longer term, we expect these projects to contribute to the ultimate objective of reducing the rate of incarceration among Indigenous people. Funding under this theme is up to a maximum of 30 months, but please note your projects can be much shorter. For national projects, the maximum amount you can apply for is $500,000 for up to 30 months. For provincial and territorial projects, or projects covering an extensive region, the maximum total budget is $300,000 for up to 30 months. As mentioned, there are separate forms for Theme 1 and Theme 2. On this page, you will find a web form for Theme 1. However, it is really important to note that this web form cannot be saved. You need to fill the entire form in one single session. We can also provide you a Microsoft Word form on request. You just need to email the Indigenous Justice Program at ijp-pa@justice.gc.ca, and we will send you a copy. The deadline for submitting your form online or sending your completed form in Word by email is 12 p.m. on August 5th, 2021, Pacific Standard Time. Now we will move on to Theme 2. Only Indigenous groups and communities are eligible for this funding theme. Here, we are asking you to develop a project focused on systemic change. By this, we mean changes to processes, structures, policies, etc. And we have provided a few concrete examples in the theme language to provide additional clarity. This theme is a little different in that we are not expecting you to know the exact change you would like to implement, but rather talk about the need or issue you want to focus on and how you will go about delivering the project. We want to stress that funding for direct delivery of services is not eligible. However, if you would like to work with existing service providers and justice professionals to change the way services are delivered within existing resources through, for example, the development of interagency protocols, this would be eligible. Whatever you develop should not require ongoing funding. It should create a change that lives on after the project ends. You will see that we have outlined mandatory elements for this theme, which is essentially a list of activities we expect you to follow in delivering your project. This starts with establishing partnerships. The idea here is that you should be engaging with stakeholders and partners from the onset, essentially creating buy-in and support from those that will help you implement change. In most cases, we expect this to include criminal justice system professionals. In the application form, you will be asked to outline how you will deliver each mandatory activity. So for the first criteria, establish partnerships, you may have some idea of who you expect to engage and how you will engage them. You may already have an existing committee, for example, that you will use. You may have different options or multiple methods you want to use. Just tell us what you can, even if it is not 100% firm yet. For examining the context and conducting a needs assessment, please note there is no official definition or template for the needs assessment. We are basically giving you the time and space you need, along with partners, to make sure that all parties understand the needs, barriers, and opportunities related to what you are trying to address. For example, through your needs assessment, you may realize that childcare and transportation issues are significant barriers, and you cannot make progress without addressing one or both of these in your proposed intervention. In terms of opportunities, you may find out that there are some relevant programs out there that you have never partnered with that could support what you want to do. You will see that we are asking you to work with a gender-based analysis plus lens in the development of your needs assessment and to consider the gendered needs of women in particular in your proposal, given the high rates of Indigenous women in custody. For those that are less familiar with this terminology, we have provided a link to a website that will provide you information on GBA+. Very briefly, we are asking you to look at the different subpopulations within the group you are targeting and consider the differences between them in developing your projects. So, for example, if your project will target youth and adults, will the same approach work for both, or would you need to adjust to ensure positive outcomes for both? We realize that in the Indigenous context, some communities use their own culturally appropriate or specific approaches that you would not label as a GBA plus approach per se. If you have your own approach to ensuring that needs of different groups are considered, that is not a problem. Please just clearly explain this in your proposal. As long as it is clear that the same goals are met, that is what is important. The next component is the implementation of the project. This is where you may have the least amount of detail, and that is okay. Provide the information that you can. You may, for example, not know what you will be doing, but you may have some ideas on the how. The examples we are giving here are to help you understand what we mean by systemic change, but you are not expected to know what you will do or to describe it in detail without having completed the first two steps. The exception would be if you have already gone through a needs assessment and engaged partners and only need funding to implement your project. We do not expect you to repeat steps you have already done, but in this case, we would expect you to provide much more detail on what you will be implementing and how. Also, you will want to make it really clear in your application what elements you have already completed, what was done, who was involved, and why you are ready to move on to the implementation phase. The last component is on knowledge sharing. We want you to share the lessons learned from your project within your networks. So please provide some details on how you could share the results of your project and with who. Please review the list of important considerations carefully. There are several types of activities that are not eligible listed here. I will mention that for the most part, these examples would probably be eligible as long as they are included as part of the larger project and mandatory activities, but would not be eligible as standalone items. So for example, we would not fund a research project, but if you did research as part of the needs assessment work, along with all the other mandatory activities, that would be fine. In terms of planned outcomes, before the project ends, we expect stakeholders and partners to have increased their understanding of some systemic barriers facing Indigenous people in the justice system. This is through their participation in all phases of the project, but in particular by being involved in the needs assessment phase. We also expect Indigenous organizations, communities, stakeholders, and partners to collaborate in implementing effective solutions. In this case, we do expect the medium-term outcome to be achieved before the project ends. In the longer term, we expect these projects to contribute to the ultimate objective of reducing the rate of incarceration among Indigenous people. Funding under this theme is up to a maximum of 36 months. There are an additional 6 months compared to Theme 1. And again, your projects can be shorter. For national projects, the total project maximum is $500,000. For provincial and territorial or regional projects, it is $300,000, and for community-based projects, the maximum is $250,000. On this page, you will find a web form for Theme 2. Again, I will mention that the web form cannot be saved, and we would be happy to provide you a form in Microsoft Word. Just send us an email. The deadline for submitting your form online or sending your completed Microsoft Word form by email is August 5th, 2021 by 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The deadline for Theme 1 and Theme 2 are the same. For this theme, there are a few special notes around project deliverables that we will mention quickly. Since this theme allows you more flexibility to figure things out with partners after approval, you do not have to provide a detailed work plan, results framework, or full list of confirmed partners as part of the application, but we will ask for them 4 months after the projects are approved. We will ask for a copy of your needs assessment after 12 months. Now I am going to go over a few things in the application form. A lot of the questions are pretty routine or self-explanatory, so we will only focus on a few key pieces. I am going to use the Theme 2 form as the example, and will mention that the major difference between the two application forms is that for Theme 1, you need to complete a work plan, and for Theme 2, you do not. The application forms ask you for a start and end date. For Theme 1, this should add up to no more than 30 months, and for Theme 2, it would be no more than 36 months. We realize that it is hard to know when your project will be approved, and we cannot provide any guarantees. Therefore, we are suggesting, for now, that you pick a date between November 2021 and January 2022 for your start date. And we will work with you to adjust the timelines as needed based on when approvals are received. Probably the most important section in the application form is the project description. Read the instructions here carefully. For both Theme 1 and Theme 2, we will be looking here to confirm that your project aligns with the mandatory elements of the call for proposals and to learn about what you plan to deliver. For Theme 2 in particular, we suggest you use the mandatory key activities as headers and then fill in your information under each one. For theme 2, you will need to provide some rough timelines for each of the mandatory activities here in the project description section. But for theme 1, you can include this in the work plan section. In terms of assessing your proposal, we will be looking to ensure that it aligns with the theme description. That being said, there is some wiggle room if you have a solid justification for adding on to or adjusting the suggested approach somewhat. Just provide the details in your proposal. The other really important section that we will be looking at carefully is the needs section. This is where you will describe the particular issue your project will address and the specifics related to your particular context. What specifically do you want to target? Maybe it is working with the police to increase pre-charge diversion or reducing a certain type of administration of justice offenses, for example. Describe what made you pick your chosen focus and why you see this as important. For the budget, cost categories will appear as options in the drop-down menus for building your budget. Regular project costs, such as salaries and benefits, materials and supplies, office equipment, professional fees, honoraria, travel expenses are all eligible. I do want to confirm that culturally relevant expenditures, including, but not limited to, gifts, community fees, and ceremonial meals are eligible project expenses, and that administration costs cannot exceed 20% of the total budget. You are asked to provide details per fiscal year. Depending on your start and end dates, you may have very little expenses in this fiscal year and in the last fiscal year of your project. This ends the session, and we thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, please send them to the IJP mailbox at ijp-pja@justice.gc.ca. We look forward to receiving your proposals. Have a great rest of your day.